How's it going, fam? How are you all doing today? Yes, we are finally back here up on YouTube. And you know, it's been a couple of months since I've actually uploaded a video. I was doing a lot of traveling, I was on a job hunt, I was sick a lot this summer, but you know what? Don't worry about that. We are back, and we are back here with a brand new video and a brand new series. We're going to continue to be talking about VGC because it's the format that I love. I love this format so much. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This Mon isn't bad, and that's the new series. It's basically where I'm going to talk about underutilized Pokemon or undiscovered Pokemon in the VGC format that I actually think have a lot of potential given the current meta and given the right situation. This Mon can be used in a way to actually be very, very effective. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that right here, right now. And this is completely an opinion piece. This is just based off not only my experience, but my take on the meta and kind of where it's going. We are recording this shy of a week out of Pokemon Worlds. We're only around 12 days or so from the 2017 Pokemon World Championship. And based on the meta specifically from internets, this is where a lot of this information is coming from. This is where a lot of my opinion is coming based out of. I was able to attend that event. It was a great event. But enough about that. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about one of the Mons that I've been, talking about for almost the entire season, besides Serena. Yes, we're going to talk about Wigglytuff, guys. Wigglytuff is not a bad Pokemon, and we're gonna get into all that and why and situations, and I'm gonna even give you guys not only some builds but some good other components of the team that you guys might want to use if you decide to pick this up. So but first, let's kind of see what we're working with, guys. Wigglytuff is VGC legal. Not a lot of people actually know that. It's in the Pokemon, it's in the Alolan Dex. It's number 136, and it gets all of its abilities. Nothing's really changed as far as that. Cute Charm and Frisk. Frisk is its hidden ability, but the ability that we're really focused on, guys, obviously is competitive. Competitive, a very, very strong ability. Not a lot of Pokemon get it, but it's incredibly strong. So let's go ahead and read this real quick. Competitive raises the ability bearer's special attack when a stat lowering move is targeted at it. So anytime it gets hit with any type of move that would lower any of its stats, whether it be String Shot or even an Intimidate or anything in between, its special attack stat boosts, and it's can be used very effectively. But the thing is about a move like this, about an ability like this, it's not on a lot of Mons, guys. And you have a list here of all the Mons that would get it, including Meowstic, but it's Jigglypuff, the Jigglypuff line, Milotic, and the Gothitelle / Gothorita line are the only Mons that get it. It's a very rare ability, but it's a very, very powerful ability. In fact, you get a 2-stage boost every time it activates. So why is it specifically really good on Wigglytuff? Well, first of all, let's look at its stats. Alright, so Wigglytuff has a base 140 HP, which is pretty bulky when you compare it to a lot of other Pokemon in the format. It might necessarily be the bulkiest in terms of, overall bulk, but as far as a raw HP stat, that's pretty good. Its attack is 70, but we're not worried about that. The defense and special defense stat are actually pretty mediocre, which is why this Pokemon struggles so much. It's because although it has 140 base HP, which is pretty good, it does not have the best defense and special defense, and it still gets one-shot by a lot, especially in this format when a lot of steel-type moves and poison-type moves are, all over the place. And it has a base 85 special attack, which is subpar. I wouldn't call it mediocre. It's definitely weaker than ideally, as I would like it to be. However, it's nothing to scoff at, and it's compensated by its ability. Now, there's a bunch of information here, guys, that I'm not going to bore you here with, but here are a couple of the egg moves, stuff like that. But I'm just going to bring this up to give you guys access to not only this, and all these links will be in the description, but because Wigglytuff is a Gen 1 Pokemon, a lot of if not all Gen 1 Pokemon, specifically normal types, their move coverage is insane, and we're going to get over that, but he has access to Ice Beam, Light Screen, Hyper Beam, Solar Beam, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Shadow Ball, Psychic, Toxic. He has access to Fire Blast, Focus Blast. He just Dazzling Gleam, obviously, but just the actual move pool that Wigglytuff is able to access, and what he's able to what Wigglytuff is actually able to use is all over the place. It has incredible move coverage. It's able to adapt to any situation, which is one of the big strengths of this Pokemon. Now, its egg moves aren't necessarily the best, besides Parrot Song is the only one that kind of sticks out to me, and maybe Wish or Heal Pulse, but besides that, it's not really doing much. You're going to get most of its moves are going to be coming from the TM slot, and additionally, it doesn't really for a lot of these moves that it would like all the Misty Terrain, Perish Song, stuff like that. The Pokemon is not bulky enough to kind of maintain a kind of supporty role. This Pokemon, especially with its ability that we're going to be talking about, specifically competitive, it's going to be wanting to do as much spread damage as possible, which is what Wigglytuff is really, really good at because it has access to Hyper Voice. So, this is why, here's a couple of reasons why I think Wigglytuff is pretty good in the current VGC meta. Again, we're talking about this August before Worlds of 2017, if you're watching this video later, about a week out. And with a move set like it has, in addition to the meta as it was being at Internets, there are double intimidates everywhere. You know, and the most common ones is obviously Arcanine, and then not far behind the Salamence, and then you have some Gyarados right behind there, but for the most part, it's Salamence and Arcanine who complement each other very, very well on most team compositions, and they're going to be able to alternate. And because the plethora of physical attacking Pokemon in this dex, you know, it gets a lot of mileage. However, one of the best things about Wigglytuff is that it hits it has Ice Beam. And because it's also a fairy type, in addition to being a normal type, Salamence can't actually do very much, if anything, to it. So it's almost a direct counter to Salamence, as well as being a pretty good matchup into Arcanine. Now, Arcanine is going to be doing a little bit more damage to the Wigglytuff as opposed to the Salamence because it gets access to, you know, Wild Charge and Flare Blitz. However, you know, it's still not great. Now, Wigglytuff doesn't really have a lot to hit Arcanine either, but you do have the advantage of the boost from competitive to be able to deal massive amounts of damage. So it's looking pretty good on the Wigglytuff side, and especially if you have a Mon to threaten the Arcanine as the other Mon that you're currently have on the field, which we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. It's just great. It's just a great Mon to have against those two Pokemon specifically. And especially when the actual poison Pokemon, the Pokemon with the poison typing, aren't all over the place, which Wigglytuff can't really hit for anything. You know, it has its little slot in the meta where everyone is using Double Intimidate. So there's that. In addition to all of that, the move Bulldoze, which we're gonna talk about really quickly, is becoming more prevalent. It's a really good form of speed control without hard committing to Trick Room. Bulldoze is a ground move that does spread damage to everybody else in the field that lowers their speed stat. And Wigglytuff's already slow, so we don't really care about that. But because it's lowering his speed stat, Wigglytuff is going to be able to get a boost from that. So you can use something with the Bulldoze, and then you can get the boost right there under Wigglytuff to be able to do massive amounts of damage. It's just a great combination, and we're going to talk about that right here, right now. So that's kind of what we're working with as far as Pokemon. And again, we're just going to hover over this real quick. That's kind of the stats we're working with, the move pool we're working with as well. And as far as its weaknesses, only Poison and Steel. Now, Steel has been a lot more prevalent as far as the types of moves that you will see this format. But still, only having two weaknesses, it's not being quad weak to anything, is pretty good, in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and just real quick, guys, talk about kind of the partners that you hopefully will have right here. The partners that you're looking to have. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and I'm actually going to give you guys some builds of some Wigglytuffs that I've used and I've tested and I've played through, and I played in a lot of side events at Pokemon Internets with these Pokemon, and I actually did pretty well at a lot of these side events. I usually got, with the exception of maybe one, I got either the second or third at most of these side events, which had a lot of pretty good players, as you would imagine. This is the Wigglytuff I was using, which is an Assault Vest Wigglytuff with competitive. Now, this specific build spread, the only thing about this Wigglytuff that gets absolutely destroyed with is the fact that it loses to Kartana almost indiscriminately. If it's sashed Kartana, it basically can't really do anything at all ever, unless it's in Trick Room, and even then it's still. But this specific Eevee build that me and a couple of my my friends that I playtest with and team build with built specifically where he doesn't lose. Wigglytuff does not lose a lot of damage in the special attack realm because it's getting the competitive boost. It's bulky enough where with the assault vest, it's going to be looking to eat up a lot of hits. Not as much as a lot of Pokemon, let's say Feeny or something like that, or Celesteela, obviously, but a decent amount of hits. But it's going to 100% of the time be able to live a Smart Strike from a Kartana, unless it crits. Obviously, there's no way you can build one without for the crit. But if it does not crit, then it's going to live. And then you can just go ahead and respond with the flamethrower, and it will get the KO because it's quad weak and it's Kartana and whatever, right? But it's going to be able to pick up the KO, which is very surprising. Most people focus down the Wigglytuff with the Smart Strike, assuming they're going to one-shot it. Then you just return and get the KO with the flamethrower, which allows you to set up either a Trick Room or an Aurora Veil or whatever it is you want to do. So it's pretty good. So this is the build I'm using, and again, the links to both of these teams or both of these pay spins for both of these showdown teams I'm going to show you guys will be in the description. So there's that. So Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Hyper Voice, Thunderbolt. You can switch out any of these for Dazzling Gleam if you're feeling a little bit iffy and you want Fairy type coverage, but you don't necessarily need it in this meta, in my opinion. So this is a very different Wigglytuff. This is straight Trick Room. This is it's max HP, max special attack, modest again. You're going to want to go modest on 99% of the time on your Wigglytuffs. And then it's 4 in defense, but this is basically, I'm banking to get Trick Room, and this is going to be competitive, obviously, but I'm absolutely banking to get Trick Room. I'm going to, set up my team around getting Trick Room, and that way you can just start blowing people back with Hyper Voices, because Hyper Voice, Life Orb, Hyper Voice with a +2 boost is insane, because plus you get stabbed because you're a normal type, so it's pretty good. And those are the two main builds I would recommend to get you started. You might want to mess with them a little bit, but for the most part, you're going to want to either do the Assault Vest, which I personally think is the best all-around build. You want to live the Smart Strikes to get the KO in the Kartana, as well as be able to kind of flex with any other move, because you have Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Hyper Voice, which is a lot of spread. So if he sends out whatever he sends out, like an Arcanine, it allows you to hit Arcanine pretty hard. And although you're not Life Orbs, you're doing a significantly less damage with this build. Not only will you live longer most of the time, but you are going to be able to do out serious damage when you do get the competitive boost off. And this is more of a go ham to the way, go ham, balls to the wall. I'm going to get my Trick Room off, because if you do, Wigglytuff is absolutely terrifying in Trick Room with its type coverage. So we are going to quickly talk about a couple of good teammates for Wigglytuff. So first of all, Ninetales is a phenomenal teammate for Wigglytuff, mainly because of Aurora Veil. It allows it to live more than it normally ever would, especially if it's assault vested. The Aurora Veil is incredibly good to have, because you're going to be cycling out the Intimidates and stuff like that anyway, ideally to get your boosts out with other members of your team with stuff like Roar and stuff like that. And they're going to be switching out a lot anyway, because they can't just take all this damage. They have to deal with one or the other. So Ninetales is a great partner to have with Wigglytuff, because if you are able to get the Wigglytuff in, have it, you either switch it in on the Aurora Veil usage of that turn, or predict it. So because usually you're not going to want to run Protect unless you're running maybe the Life Orb version. So you can Protect Aurora Veil, stuff like that, but it's just very good. It mitigates a lot of the problems with Wigglytuff and allows it just to be a monster. Salamence, again with Bulldoze, is actually a really good partner for Wigglytuff, because it does a lot of coverage. It has the dragon coverage, has the water coverage, which Wigglytuff does not have, because it gets access to Hydro Pump, so which is pretty good. It allows almost complete type coverage in that regards, and allows you to freely dictate when your competitive boost happens, and you don't care about the loss of speed, because Wigglytuff is going to go last in almost every situation anyway. And it's kind of the same deal with Arcanine, but I think Arcanine works out a little bit better, because you're more likely to run Roar on your Arcanine. You have a Arcanine that's very flexible, so you're going to be able to have room for that slot. And it allows you to just cycle their Intimidates. And if you Roar and you get the Intimidate and you get the boost right before you hit a Hyper Voice, it's really good. And again, it also gets access to Bulldoze, which is pretty good. Excuse me. Now, I put Mimikyu here because, given the fact that Wigglytuff has a hard time against a lot of the other Pokemon in the format, specifically things like Nihilego, Kartana, Pheromosa, Garchomp, kind of. If you don't have Trick Room or something like that, because it has access to Poison Jab. Mimikyu is probably the best one to guarantee you get your Trick Room off. You don't, because Kartana is gonna do pretty well against Slow King, some Slow Bros. You know, you could throw out Porygon. Porygon's another option, but again, Porygon, the Titanium Z is just another threat, and then that's a lot of normal types to have on one team. So it's just, I would recommend Mimikyu if you're gonna run hard Trick Room. That's just my opinion, because plus it gives you access to a lot of other type moves like Ghost moves, so that's pretty cool. Wigglytuff can't really hit Coco, which is a problem. So partnering with Nihilego is pretty good, because it allows you to deal with Nihilego, or excuse me, deal with Tapu Koko as a offensive threat. So it frees up your Wigglytuff to kind of do whatever, and Hyper Voice or Ice Beam or whatever, and Flex and kind of deal with it. Wigglytuff is a good Pokemon to kind of deal with problems that your other Pokemon can't really do. It's not going to one-shot anything, but it's going to do a good chunks of damage every time it attacks. So Nihilego plus Wigglytuff is good type coverage to cover each other's weaknesses, and kind of cover each other in a way that, you know, there's almost nothing that neither of those Pokemon can't hit. And they have to deal with one or the other, because Wigglytuff is going to be putting out a lot of damage if it has a competitive boost. Nihilego does a lot of damage naturally. It's just a really good mix. And out of all the Tapus, I probably would suggest Lele. It allows you to, for your Wigglytuff at least, to mitigate a lot of that damage from those priority moves like Fake Out or Extreme Speed, or you know, or stuff like that, Feint, stuff like that. So it allows your Wigglytuff to kind of get the most damage, have the most time on the board, because the more time Wigglytuff is out on the board, the more effective it is overall. And it's just pretty awesome. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys actually were able to, you know, maybe consider trying on your Battle Spot teams, your Pokemon Showdown teams, try using Wigglytuff. I threw out a lot of information for you guys, but I hope to be able to do this every time I think of a really cool Mon that hasn't quite seen the meta. But I think in a format where Double Intimidate is pretty good, and Milotic doesn't necessarily have the best type coverage overall to deal with a lot of the other things that are happening in the meta right now. I think Wigglytuff is a pretty good alternative to Milotic if you want to run that kind of strategy. And if you build the right comp around it, if you do a couple of stuff as far as the build, and if you just playtest it a lot, and if you get really comfortable playing with it, because it is a very different Mon that relies heavily on your ability to control the board, because the longer Wigglytuff is out on the board, the more effective it is. So if you're able to do all that, you know, put the time in, it could be pretty devastating. It could be a pretty good Mon. It's basically a ticking time bomb in a Double Intimidate format specifically. So that's going to be it for me for this video, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. This is one of my more analytical videos. I usually do a lot of like entertaining stuff, but if you guys like this, please let me know. If you guys have a Pokemon that you want me to check out, that you think it's pretty good in the VGC format that hasn't been used, please toss it my way, especially since Worlds is just around the corner. You know, I'm really looking for those sleeper picks. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and follow or subscribe here on the channel. And if you want to, you can go ahead and subscribe over there at the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/TitoKMF, because we will be doing a tournament on Showdown and the winner gets a free copy of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And the details, if they're not already somewhere on this video or in the description, they will be very soon, because that is coming. It's going to be a fantastic time to be a Pokemon player. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Adios.